it's really taking the technology to the next level. And people were able to guess, of course, that we're unveiling the dual motor Model S, but what they'll learn tonight is just how much of an improvement it is.
This whole tweet that you sent out less than, 10 days ago,
yeah.
You sent this tweet out. Were you surprised by how the internet pretty much got it right with what you were going to unveil?
I think the internet is very good at figuring out secrets at this point. So there's no privacy anymore. But I think we were able to keep a few of the important details.
A little bit of a surprise.
Yes.
And your stock went up, Elon, by something like 8-9%, just based on that tweet alone. You earned about $3 billion in market cap on that. Is that a surprise to you?
Yes. I mean, that seems like an unlikely thing to happen just based on a tweet. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's surprising. I don't really follow the stock that much. Because I think sometimes the stock moves for kind of random reasons, and if that ends up being a mood barometer, then it's not a happy life.
Well, because a few weeks ago you had said yourself, look, you thought the stock was a little bit high, and it then fell about 10% after that. So do you still think the stock is a little high?
Well, it depends on how people. If somebody's a long-term holder of the stock, I think there's a lot of appreciation that will occur in the long term. In the short term, it's difficult to predict these fluctuations. But it does seem as though, for a company that had a few $1 billion in revenue last year, to have a $30+ billion market cap is on the high side. And I think that's. I think there's certainly lots of people on the internet who say that. And,
So you still feel that way then about your stock?
No, I mean, I feel like it's always difficult to predict the short-term fluctuations. So if someone's a long-term holder of the stock, I don't think they should sell the stock. I think it will appreciate and ultimately be much higher than it is today. But in terms of short-term fluctuations, that's impossible to say.
Now, we'll go through the features of the Model D, essentially, in a moment, but I'm interested about the legal implications of having autopilot in the Model S's, right? What happens, Elon, if the car does, in fact, crash? Who is going to be responsible when that car is on autopilot?
Yeah, so I think it's important for us to differentiate autonomous driving versus autopilot. Autopilot is what they have in airplanes. For example, we use the same term that they use in airplanes, where there's still an expectation that there will be a pilot. So if the onus is on the pilot to make sure that the autopilot is doing the right thing. We're not yet at a stage where you can go to sleep and wake up at your destination. If we would have called it autonomous instead of autopilot if that was the case.
Right.
But what we are doing is making it a lot easier and more comfortable to drive the car. And incorporating a lot of active safety features so that the car will stay in its lane, will automatically brake, will maintain a distance to other cars, will avoid highway barriers and other obstacles.
But that doesn't still address the question, though, Elon, which is, let's say it's on autopilot, so it's not autonomous. But if it's on autopilot and a driver says, hey, this was supposed to change lanes for me, and instead it hit this barrier. I want Tesla to be responsible for this.
Yeah, I think we're going to be quite clear with customers that the responsibility remains with the driver.
Okay.
We're not asserting that the car is capable of driving in the absence of driver oversight. That will be the case at some point in the future, like maybe 5 or 6 years from now. I think we'll be able to achieve true autonomous driving, where you could literally get in the car, go to sleep, and wake up at your destination. But in order to do that, you have to have fully redundant systems. Everything's got to be redundant so that any one system breaking does not result in an accident. And you also have to prove that out over millions of miles of driving. And then, of course, then we have to prove that to the regulators to convince them that it's safe. And so I think from the point at which true autonomous driving is possible, which I now think is probably in the 5 or 6 year time frame.
You said that before, though, 5 to 6 years, yeah.
A couple of years ago, I thought it was more like 10 years, but based on the rate of improvement that I'm seeing and the progress we're making, I think we'll probably be able to do it in 5 or 6 years. And then, but it's probably still going to take 2 or 3 years after that before the regulators approve it, because they'll want to make sure that it's truly a lot safer than driving with a person. And the standard for fully autonomous driving is going to be much greater than for a person.
Right.
Because if it's just equivalent, that wouldn't be enough.
There's no change at all in the battery, right? There's no change at all
Correct.
in what you're doing with in how you're
Yes.
okay. But is there going to be a change at all in the driving range given some of these improvements?
Yeah. So the way we're doing dual motor, it actually enables a range increase because we're able to balance the efficiency of the motors a lot more. So if you just have one motor, it's always on a particular power versus efficiency curve. But if you've got two motors, you can optimize between them and actually have the motors operate in their more efficient regime more of the time. And the net result is that we're able to get 10 miles more highway range just by going to dual motors, whereas in every other all-wheel drive system, you lose range. This one, you gain it.